So, got a little no mercy action for you today. Um, this heist was like a royal pain in the neck, I'm not even gonna lie. It's probably really easy for people that are like actually good at this game, but man, this gave me a lot of trouble. I tried like, I can't even tell you how many builds, and was trying all sorts of stuff until I finally just decided to push through it with this particular build, which is really, really strong, and most people would probably consider kind of brain dead. But I'm kind of the point now where I just need to learn how to get good at the game with one particular build and start branching out as I kind of feel myself improving, things like that. So I've got double Mark 10s just to go BRrt, basically, with body expertise and a lot of crits. I'm running Hacker with low concealment. I brought the ECM jammer, it came in handy quite a few times through the heist just to kind of push objectives a little bit harder. Just because I hate waiting for fades and things like that to actually push the objectives if I can help it. Originally I wanted to do this with Copycat, and I was getting really, really far runs with it, but I kept getting like heartbreakers where I'd get really far into the heist and get a lot of progress, and then something stupid would happen, like I'd get overwhelmed by 6 dozers or something ridiculous, and I was just so over it. Copycat's kind of what I'm leaning into, is like for a comfort pick now, though. Even though the past several runs I've been using Hacker, it just feels like when I get frustrated and I've hit a wall and I can't progress any further, I can just throw this on and kind of push through. Not to say that it was easy even with it, I'm not gonna lie. Like, again, I emphasize that maybe other people would find this extraordinarily easy with this particular setup, but man, I was struggling. But yeah, this setup is really, really strong. I borrowed it from my good buddy. Used to go by Striler, goes by Restrung. Yeah, you probably know him, he's done all sorts of crazy good runs, but he's been giving me a lot of advice and kind of helping me improve and pointing things out in my gameplay that I could probably try working on and things like that. He's been very encouraging about helping me improve, which I super appreciate, so shout outs to him. I think this particular build and loadout I took from his like 4-player spawn Hell's Island build, I want to say. Yeah. It was a really good run. Really, like, entertaining to watch. It's a good loadout. I had kind of modified it initially. I was using dual-wield... crud, I can't remember what they're called. Tatankas, I want to say? I was using Akimbo Tatankas, and then I was using, like, either a UMP or a Heather SMG secondary. And the only problem with that setup was just the ammo. That was literally the only problem that I was having. I was shredding things, and for the most part, I didn't struggle with ammo until deep into the heist, where it was just the less than excellent ammo pickup slowly would catch up with me. And that was the only issue with it there, was just the staying power on ammo. Although I think for shorter heists, well, this probably isn't supposed to be a short heist, but I kept getting rather unlucky in my other attempts with saws and blood vials and things like that. And this one I got relatively lucky, I'd say. Gosh, I don't know how many attempts I'd have to saw through more than... Like, I'd have to saw all 3 doors. It just elongates the heist so much, but... On the bright side, I got really good at getting through the first part, which is the first assault wave, but it's... You know, the first assault wave really isn't that difficult, but... One of the things that also helped me a lot in this heist was, as I talked with Restrung, he kind of pointed out that there were some better holding spots than what I was using, particularly the back room that you'll see me retreat to a ton. I'd also picked up this particular trick hiding behind the TV from watching somebody else's run. Ace, I want to say it was a run from a couple years ago. So it's kind of just what I'm trying to do at this point, is watch other people's runs, kind of take in what they do, apply it to my gameplay, and just try to gradually improve. I'm not really here to do any crazy innovations or do anything that people haven't already done before. I'm kind of too late for that. Maybe if I had tried to stay on top of things back when I had the most momentum, you know, several years ago. You know, woulda, coulda, shoulda, or whatever. I'm really glad that I've come around with body expertise, though. It is... it's just so easy to clear through a ton of enemies. I've also been trying to just change the way that I approach killing enemies in general, anyway. In terms of, like, when I choose to go in and out of cover. Try to be a lot more aggressive, and I don't abide by the rule because sometimes I kind of default to my normal way of thinking, I suppose, whenever I'm in this particular run. The smack drill restart was not coming in clutch, unfortunately, which it is kind of a gamble. It's a lot of points to waste, but I had plenty of points in this particular build. I didn't really have anywhere else that I could have put them that would have made like a gigantic difference. Started to get adjusted to not using a HUD mod anymore. I'm trying to run as close to vanilla game as possible. And aside from like inventory mods, like having more weapon pages and having like a weapon stats mod for the inventory so I can actually see the true values for the weapons, I'm really not running anything. And the low violence mod to despawn bodies as soon as they die, of course. But other than that, game's pretty much vanilla at this point in terms of any sort of information that I'm getting, not even visually. There really wasn't anything that prompted the change. I just decided to kind of keep it plain and basic. Gosh, Hacker is just so ridiculously strong on this map, where you can just basically shut down the whole map just by walking into the middle of all the hallways, just using the interact key. It's really hilarious watching it back, watching the run back, I mean, because it looks so easy when I'm watching even just me do it. But like in the moment when you're making all these decisions and you know that like turning a corner at the wrong time might accidentally like end up getting you just two-shot instantly and losing it, it's crazy. I take it for granted, I think, whenever I'm watching people's runs and I'm trying to analyze, at least on a, you know, fairly superficial level, exactly how much decision making is going on at any given time whenever they're doing things. Like, there was so much risk even in just that sprint down the hallway right there, like where that Zeal spawned behind me and I didn't realize it, and then there was a Zeal on the other end of the hallway. I mean, if I got unlucky, I could have got two-tapped before I had a chance to pop one of my pocket ECMs. But again, that is one of the big strengths of this perk deck, is being able to push objectives and shut down enemies and regain health like all in one go. It's incredibly strong. It's got great sustain, great for DPS. I mean, it's incredible, honestly. I think for maps that I don't need to have incredible amounts of ammo sustain, I'll probably use my other setup with the Tatankas and some sort of secondary SMG. Trying to experiment with more weapon setups, just, you know, depending on the map and things like that. I don't want to kind of pigeonhole myself into just using one particular really broken weapon setup. I want to try to branch out. That is part of the fun of all this. I mean, there does come a point after I've tried, you know, a dozen different builds and I'm not getting anywhere that I'm like, okay, let me just throw on something broken so I can get a W, so that I can feel better about myself, and then I'll go back to experimenting a little bit. And that was something I was discussing with Restrung a little bit, actually. Almost ate paint right there. That was almost a disastrous mistake. But something I was discussing with Restrung is it's probably in my best interest to focus on getting really good with one particular build and setup and things like that, and then slowly branching out from there. Might be doing myself a disservice by spreading myself really thin. So fortunately for this particular run, I got really lucky and I got the first gate. So I'm assuming one through I can't talk, man. A 1 in 3 chance to have the infected person inside whatever you're drilling or something. That's just by assumption. I'm assuming there's no higher chance in any of them versus the others. And I am pretty sure it's chosen as soon as the heist starts. Because I know you can do like the stealth section or whatever, but don't quote me on that. I don't know enough about the behind the scenes stuff for this heist to say definitively whether or not that's the case. However, drawing blood was without a doubt the longest part of the heist. I was getting very unlucky with the blood samples. I don't know what the odds are on the blood samples, and I should have pulled that up before I even started commentary. I just didn't think of it. But gosh, it felt like, particularly the second blood vial. The first blood vial I think I get rather quickly, but second blood vial literally takes, it felt like half the runtime, even while I was waiting on the elevator, and I was trying to push it quite a bit. I do remember in this particular spot I thought I was toast, because I thought I was going to get rushed before I had a chance to get my pocket ECM back and move from this slightly disadvantageous position. I like this particular position as soon as the map starts, but once the map opens up, I don't think it's very good because you can just get hit from too many angles. I also kind of don't like hiding in a lot of these rooms where the enemies can come down out of the ceiling just because it feels way too open. This is my buddy. His name is Carl. He will be with us for the rest of the heist. Shoutouts to Carl for extending the in-between parts of my assault waves. He's the real MVP. I didn't really kite enemies around the map too much, as opposed to my Shacklethorn video I did not too terribly long ago. I really focused on hiding enemies as much as I could there, but there's something about the claustrophobic nature of this map that made it feel like, even though I could, in theory, kite, it almost didn't feel like a good option. It felt safer in most circumstances just to kind of sit in one spot, get my kills to get pocket ECM off cooldown, and then just kind of wash, rinse, repeat. One thing I also tried to do while I was doing the blood samples was being sure anytime I was interacting with the patient, I had a pocket ECM ready in case someone came around the corner, because there was nowhere to hide as far as I'm aware inside those patient rooms. I definitely wanted to play that a bit more on the careful side. Kind of goofed there and assumed I had a blood vial when I didn't. Had a little too much adrenaline pumping through my system, I'm pretty sure. Maybe it took longer to get the first one than I recall. I'm surprised I didn't die there, honestly. I think that was one of a handful of parts where I was like, yeah, I should have lost the run there. That was a pretty grievous mistake. And right here, too. I was really scared once the smoke popped out there. This heist in particular has made me scared to death of smoke. Just from not so much special enemies if you have, I don't think I had it on this particular build, but high value target ace kind of helps with smoke in terms of seeing specials, but not so much Zeals, and I'm generally more scared of Zeals than I am specials. They're just a much more high priority target because of the DPS, unless it's like a dozer or something. It just all depends. Opted instead here to just retreat to my safe hidey hole. Feeling quite a bit of pressure from the cops, and I was getting nervous that I was gonna throw it this deep, so I just kind of decided to play it safe. These new shield units, I say they're new, they're not really that new, but the flashbang shield units I think are rather interesting. I've not really had to work around them, so to speak, but they have been a pain in the neck on a handful of occasions if I haven't been paying super close attention. Sometimes they would hide up in the ceiling, and I think there's one later on in the heist that trolls me a little bit, who almost gets like a really strong flashbang on me through the ceiling. Because I just wasn't thinking that he'd be standing up in the ceiling spawn, just kind of hanging out, but he was. The accompanying sniper units that go with the shield units are kind of a joke. On one hand, I'm glad they're not like actual threats, because god, they would suck. But on the other hand, it's almost kind of a shame that they're not really that. I mean, they're kind of pointless, really. I don't know if they really do anything. I don't even know if their shots pierce armor. I think they just shoot you. And if they do break armor, I've never noticed. They're literally like the most least threatening enemy on the map anytime they're there. But again, I'm also kind of glad that it's not just like a regular Zeal sniper just to show up and rock my world, because that would suck royally. But it might make the game just a little more interesting.
They're earning that overtime. 30 seconds until another police assault. Eliminated the shield. 20 seconds, guys.
You'll have to pardon any lengthy pauses that I take. I've been a little sick recently, and all this talking is sending me into coughing fits, so I have to constantly reach over and mute my mic and hack up along and drink some water and try to calm down a little bit. It would probably be perfectly acceptable for me to not upload this run with commentary. It's not like I don't know how many people actually watch all of these all the way through. I thought I was gonna die there for sure. I'm scared to death anytime I get meleeed. I just assume it's like just assume it's over. But I don't know if people are even really all that interested in, DSOD runs anymore. So it's hard to know if people, if it really matters to them whether or not, they're putting the commentary here anymore. But I always feel like it's just kind of a staple. It's just something I've always done. I feel like most of the other DSOD runs I see are without any sort of mic or commentary, unless it was streamed, then it's just kind of a streamer talking. So, I don't know. It's just kind of a staple, I guess. I just enjoy doing it too. I like rewatching the run and observing things passively as opposed to actively. Did get nervous a minute ago whenever that dozer got healed and I was running low on my primary ammo. Thankfully I was able to clean those goons out. Probably another really strong benefit from hackers being able to, anytime you start getting low on ammo from being holed up for too long, you can just pop a pocket ECM and run out in the middle of everybody, grab all your ammo and have a great time. I can't remember, I think it was right here. I had someone come into my room and they were talking to me, and I was like very kindly trying to be like, please don't distract me too much if you can at all help it, because I'm really trying to not throw right now. I love how a cop disabled the power without even being at the power. I didn't realize that could even happen. Feels a little rigged, IMO, but we overcame. Shield City. I was starting to get a little sloppy here because of nervousness. I'm trying to reframe nervousness in general in my life. Like here, I just missed the button like 15 times while I was like trying to hit it just because I was kind of a little bit shaky. But I've been trying to reframe nerves in general in my life, and instead of telling myself I'm nervous, I just try to tell myself that I'm excited. And I guess that is true, it's just a matter of pessimism or optimism, really. Of course, there was the fear of getting this far and then failing, but I was also pretty hopeful that this was going to work out as far as I managed to get. I just knew that I had to prioritize survival. Carl's still hanging out with us. It's a mindset I've definitely had to change as I've started to pick up doing runs again, especially without first aid kits. There was that guy trolling me. So I lied, he didn't flashbang me, he was just shooting me and scared me to death. I'm not gonna lie, I'm trying to remember what I was just talking about, but I can't remember. I'm not 100% sure why I popped that right there, if I'm being honest with you. I think I was gonna try to stop enemies from spawning in if I could. Or not keep them from spawning in, but keep them locked up for a minute. I really don't know why I decided to hit the ECM there, if I'm being honest with you. I was really surprised that as the heist went on, nobody spawned from those two doors in the back. It would happen very rarely, but it seemed like the game just didn't prioritize that spawn location for the enemies. They were just almost... there was almost never anyone coming from there. It's another small moment of nervousness here. So now it was basically at the end game at this point. It was all just needed to... So now the elevator was here. All I needed to do was put my 2 samples in and it was donezo. Of course I was still struggling to get my second sample. It's taking freaking forever. Damage fall off. I don't even know why I was shooting people downrange with this. Oh no, it looks like I'm still getting kills. That's kind of surprised. I've not really even noticed damage fall off since I've been back, if I'm being quite honest with you. It's just not been anything that I don't know if it's because I just haven't paid attention or what. It's like the 3rd time a cloaker has meleeed me. I'm fairly certain. I wonder if it would make things more interesting if I got a mod where cloakers could kick me while I'm doing solos. Just to kind of up the difficulty in a soft way. Something to think about. Which there are other ways to do that too, of course. But I do also think it's interesting that you can shoot that enemy's shield. This might have been when I was the most nervous. Smoke on the door, no pocket ECMs, low health. And I kind of had just written it off at this point. I was like, it's over, it's done. Like, I know my pocket ECM is close, but it's going to take like 2 enemies running in. But then I got the pocket ECM back and a bunch of enemies for me to just mow through, that I got all my health back and everything was fine. But for those like 10 seconds, and those 10 seconds, or however long that I was sitting there, were absolutely agonizing at the time, and I remember them vividly right now. But watching it back, it seemed like I was sitting there for no time. But I can guarantee you, when it was me behind the keyboard and with no pocket ECM, basically no health, and smoke on the door, I was like, dude, it's over. There's no point. I should just go ahead and hit escape and go to quit to main menu. Especially with the room I'm in where there's basically no cover other than the door. I opted to clear the hallway there instead of going for a vial because I don't know, for some reason I was confident that if I went for the vial without clearing those enemies, I was going to get swarmed and I wasn't going to be able to get out. Definitely have been prioritizing killing enemies. Like very highly prioritizing. I know that sounds silly, but in the past I've had a tendency to ignore enemies and try to push or run to objectives if I could. But I've come to realize as I've both talked with other players and watched other players that there is kind of folly on my part. You definitely need to clear the enemies. Restrung had actually put it quite eloquently where he had said that killing enemies is basically a type of cover on its own, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, okay, I can see that. If no one's shooting you, you can't die, I guess. Or at least not from the enemies, so. In this particular heist, it's so easy to, you know, SMG go burr down these hallways. I mean, there's still danger. It's not like you're invincible when the pocket ECM goes up. There have been many times I've even, like, I call it pre-popping the pocket ECM, where you pop it before you run out of cover, just like a half second before. Just so it's already in action by the time you get out into the hallway. And then I'll still just get two-tapped by a couple Zeals or something. It just happens. Yep. So you still have to play it, at least somewhat carefully. Good old Carl, still just hanging out in here. I definitely wanted very, very high DPS for this particular heist, just because of all the dozers that could spawn. Very frequently I was losing runs entirely to just dozer spam, where I'd have, like, you know, 4 or 5 dozers hit me all at once. It'd be like 2 or 3 medic dozers and then a minigun dozer and some other dozer, and it was just impossible to clear them all quickly enough. Especially like double medic dozers with another dozer variant or something. It's just ridiculous and obnoxious. That's one of the things I kind of dislike about all the dozer variants in Death Sentence. I think medic dozers are a cool idea, and I don't think they shouldn't be in the game. I don't know. I have something against the idea of medics being able to heal each other and creating these infinite loops if you're just not out DPSing them super, super hard. In most circumstances, it's not a problem, but it definitely killed a couple runs when I would just get a bad configuration of specials and I'd get too many medics along with too many medic dozers in order to properly deal with anything. But it's just a minor gripe on my end. This time it all worked out. See, I was just getting so ridiculously unlucky with these blood vials. It's kind of ridiculous. I really do feel like this took almost twice as long as it needed to because of all the failed second vials I was getting. I definitely do like this setup though, and I think this would be a good carry setup if I was playing with friends and things like that. I might also try this same weapon setup, or like a similar weapon setup with Copycat. I do want to do some runs with that pretty soon. And actually get like some proper, you know, no first aid kits, no converts, none of that stuff. Because of course that was something else I'm trying to actively go for, is I'm not relying on first aid kits or converts or anything like that anymore, if I can at all help it. Trying to play with this more, I don't know why that one wasn't open. It was just kind of stuck, it seemed like. Might have still been testing, I'm not 100% sure. seemed like it had been a while since I put one in there, though. I was a little nervous right here. Oh, okay, I was gonna say, surely I don't stay in the room and try to grab the vial, and I didn't. I'm glad that I didn't. Old usual, unreformed usual would have stayed in the room and tried to get the vial before the assault started. But new and improved usual understands that surviving is better than pushing the objective and dying at the half-hour mark. And then hitting Alt F4 on the game and quitting for the night. Thankfully it all worked out. You see, just waiting a little bit and I was able to get my pocket ECMs back and back to business. But then once I heard that I had got the like that particular vial succeeded, I was like, yep, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab this now. Because I mean, at this point it's in the bag. So long as I don't get spammed by 500 enemies before the doors close. But I mean, at this point the heist is basically over. I'm not familiar with any scenarios where you can possibly die here. I think there's like maybe one, or maybe there's two cloaker spawns I think that can happen. I've seen that before, I'm fairly certain. I don't know if they spawn in solo or not, which they're cloakers, and I have one pocket ECM. I mean, I'd be able to kill them pretty readily, which I don't think the pocket ECMs affect the cloakers at all, but it doesn't even really matter because the cloakers themselves, like their guns, just don't do any sort of meaningful damage. Compared to my DPS, I'd be able to tear through them pretty quickly. But thankfully that didn't happen here and I didn't have to worry about it. I just was able to get a nice easy escape and kind of decompress. Unfortunately we did lose Carl whenever the elevator dropped. It's very sad. For some reason I was a little nervous that maybe there was some sort of fall damage that you could take here. So I intentionally like went to the middle of the elevator. I get nervous about the weirdest stuff when I'm at the end of solos for high side. I don't play very much. Like I've probably played this heist all the way through less than 10 times across every difficulty. Like it's just not one that I play very often. Although I've kind of grown to like it. Just at this point it's a bit of an acquired taste, of course. But go ahead and just run to the end here, and bada bing, bada boom. I thought I got 32:32 on the finish timer, but I got 32:33. Is a little sad. If I would have been 1 second faster, could have got a cool time. 744 kills. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if I've ever had that many in one heist solo that I can think of. Go ahead and run through the build really quickly. I'm not really going to talk about it too much. Most of it's pretty self-explanatory. Stability modifiers, shield knockback, some extra ammo pickups, drill skills, body expertise. You know, a lot of it's kind of intuitive. If you just look at it, you get the very basic gist of what's going on. We'll run through the weapon mods here pretty quickly. Again, nothing super fancy here except the cheetah print. It's pretty ballin', if I do say so myself. I do remember this Mark 10 being more so made for concealment. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this run. I hope to have more in the future for you guys. So again, thank you so much for sticking around, and I'll see you soon.